Hi, this is Lisa Gleaves with SpeakLife magazine, and I'm here to welcome my good friend Dion Miller. She's here to share about a unique way to read through the Bible. Welcome, Dion.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Could you tell me a little bit about this Bible reading challenge and how you first discovered it?
Sure. Basically, it is to read through the Bible in either 30, 60, or 90 days. My cousin actually was the first one to tell me about it. He did it. He's done it multiple times. Basically, once he started, he hadn't stopped. So it was a life-changing thing for him, and just hearing his excitement about it is what really got me interested in doing it.
When you were deciding whether or not to do it, what were your thoughts, or did you have any apprehensions before you began?
Oh, yes. Before I did it, first I didn't think it would be necessary. I was probably like most people, and I thought, I've read through most of it. I know all the Bible stories. I've been in church my whole life. And I didn't know that it was really necessary to start at the beginning and read all the way through to the end, especially in a short amount of time. And then secondly, I'd say I don't even think I thought it was possible. The Bible just seemed like such an overwhelming read. It's so long. It's just a challenge. But like I said, I was so intrigued by the actual changes I was seeing in his life and other people that I know, it made me decide to actually go ahead and give it a try.
Can you share with me a little bit more about how the Bible reading challenge works?
Absolutely. Basically, you pick how you want to read through. You can read through in the standard order, or you could read through chronologically. You can pick any version that you like, and then you pick your length of plan. Do you want to read through in 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days? If you want to read through in 30 days, it takes approximately 3 hours of reading a day. To read through in 60 days takes approximately 1.5 hours a day, and to read through in 90 days takes about 45 minutes. So this, of course, depends on how fast or how slow of a reader you are, and it can also depend on the structure of the plan that you choose. So it kind of varies a little bit, but that's a rough estimate of how long it takes.
Did you always do your reading at the same time each day?
No, I have a 4-year-old, so my schedule is constantly changing. So in general, I do a lot of my reading at night, especially.
Right.
But there were days that I would try to get some in the morning, maybe 30 minutes in the morning, or 15 minutes here and there, whatever I had to do to get it done. But I would not go to bed until I finished my reading for the day.
And from personal experience, I can say doing that, I know the first 2 nights I stayed up really late and didn't want to quit before I even got started. And I woke up actually refreshed those days that I stayed up late and got it done.
Yeah.
Not only refreshed, but with great insight, going through. So
it's neat how that happens.
Yeah, I would encourage that also. Just keep it going and don't give up.
Yep, definitely.
Well, a lot of people are familiar with read the Bible through in a year.
Mm-hmm.
How is this program different from that?
Reading through in a short amount of time, if you're reading through, say, like in 30 days, you're reading Genesis on day 1 and you're reading Revelation on day 30, it's just squeezing it in such a short amount of time, it helps you to remember more, as opposed to if you're reading Genesis on January 1 and Revelation in December. It's hard to remember that stuff that you read back at the beginning. So reading it through in a short amount of time, it helps you to remember. It helps you to see it all as one big picture, the narrative overall.
As you got further along in the Bible reading, did you notice any other differences about this style of reading through the Bible?
I noticed that the Bible is a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think that was one thing that really surprised me, that it wasn't just a collection of stories and it wasn't a how-to manual. I mean, although it is good for those things, it's so much more. And, I did not get that at all until I read through it in the Bible Challenge fashion. There's whole stories that I didn't even know was there. Like the story of Shiva Let. I just had no idea that story was in there. It was fascinating to me.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, in Judges chapter 12, basically 2 tribes are fighting each other, and one tribe is trying to get away, and they need to cross over this ford. And one of the tribes asked them to say Shiva Let. If they can pronounce it correctly, they know they're of their tribe. But if they can't pronounce it correctly, they know they're in the opposing tribe, and they slaughtered them right there. And actually, 42,000 were killed because they couldn't pronounce Shiva Let correctly. And so it's just a small story. It stood out to me because I'd never heard it before. So I'm not sure if I knew there was a northern and a southern kingdom in Israel before I read through it. I don't remember knowing that before. On kind of a larger scale, I started to notice themes throughout the Bible. I never noticed, like in the story of Exodus, how God actually says why he was doing what he was doing. It was so that everyone would know that he was the one true God, so that the Egyptians would know, so the Israelites will know, so that all nations would know. And it is a theme that continued out through the entire Old Testament. You even see it a little in the New Testament, the reason why God was doing what he was doing.
So that others would know him.
Yeah, so that others would know him, yes, and that he is the one true God and there is no other. So that was interesting. Also, on one of my more recent read-throughs, I've just been noticing how much of the gospel, how much of the New Testament is in the Old Testament. I would say, like on my first read-through, I was surprised to see how much Old Testament was in the New Testament.
Right.
But as I read more, I'm surprised at how much New Testament is actually in the Old Testament. So,
Neat.
it's been fascinating, yeah.
You have done this recently, but how many times have you actually taken this challenge and you presented that there was an option of 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days? Which ones have you done?
I've read through the entire Bible chronologically in 30 days. I read through the New Testament alone in 30 days. And then I've done the whole Bible in its traditional order in 90 days.
And was each time different for you? If so, how?
Yeah. I think each time you read the Bible, even no matter how fast you're reading it, it's different just based on where you are in life and what's going on. So that's definitely true in this reading. Different things stand out to you based on just, what you're going through in your personal life. It's also different because the more you read it, the more you remember. And I know you would think there's a lot of value in studying in slow and deliberate study, but there's so much value in reading it fast because you retain more than you think you're going to retain. So the more times you read it, you'll see that you'll remember the New Testament as you're reading the Old and the Old Testament as you're reading the New. Things will just start to click. You'll start to see connections. Things are mentioned, you'll start to remember and you'll know what they're talking about. You recognize names, you see patterns, things just stand out to you more because it's more fresh in your mind.
You mentioned that you read through in each of these times nonstop. Does that mean you weren't taking notes or doing any type of studying? What kind of format did you take for each day?
The very first time I did it, I didn't take any notes at all, and I didn't read anything additional. Basically, I was doing it in 30 days. That's almost like 3 hours of reading a day, and I didn't have time. There's a lot of value in doing that way. You let Scripture teach you about Scripture. You're not influenced by outside sources, so it was a valuable experience. Other times that I'm doing it in 90 days or reading through the New Testament, I have jotted down notes, things that I wanted to go back and look at in more detail later.
Right.
Occasionally, I've looked up things that I had questions about, but I don't spend a whole lot of time doing it because spending most of my time reading the Word, and it takes quite a bit of time.
I think I heard you once describe it more like reading a novel, like you just pick up the novel and read it from cover to cover.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. And it makes the story so much more interesting. Like if you're just reading a chapter here, a few verses there, and you don't really see how it all fits together, there's something about reading the Bible this way that draws you into the story. I mean, it's so complex. It is amazing just to read a chapter here, a book there, a few verses. It's so insightful. It's so beneficial. But reading it through like a novel, there's a whole nother level there to it. It's just, it drawing you in. You're going to want to read it again and again. So I would say, from my personal experience, if you're someone that wants to have a real passion for reading the Word, read it this way. Give it a chance. And I think if you're like me and the others that I know that have tried it, it's going to draw you in the same way. It's going to create that passion in you. It's going to make you want to keep reading it over and over.
That's awesome. I know from my experience, you describing that helped me. And after reading it through, I see it's almost like it creates a circle. It connects everything together. And for me, I'd never seen it that clearly before of how it's all connected.
Right.
So what has been your favorite part of this challenge?
probably my favorite part is being introduced to the God of the Word. And I grew up knowing about him my whole life, hearing what everyone had to say about him, my personal experience, the little bits and pieces that I've read. But reading the Bible through in this way, I really felt like I was introduced to God for the first time in all of his glory and all of his holiness. I discovered it for myself the first time it became real to me. And another great part that I've really loved is just seeing others, how their lives have been changed. Very rewarding.
What has been the most life-changing thing from your experiences with the challenge?
Life-changing for me, I would say, it's given me a passion for the Word like I never thought was possible. Before, I would honestly say I would read the Word because it's what you're supposed to do. I was really interested in what God had to say. I was interested in learning about him, but that it's not the same. The desire and the passion after reading it through this way has sparked the passion in me like I didn't know would be possible for me. You can see that some people have it. And,
yes.
and I've always wondered, how do they have that passion? And what makes them want to read this so much and study it so much? And for me, this has really been the key.
So did you do this by yourself with an accountability person? Did you do it with a group? How did you go about it?
The very first time I read through in 30 days, I did it by myself. And when I did through the New Testament in 30 days, I did that with one friend. And then the 90-day challenge I did with a group.
Okay.
So it's been different every time. I definitely say do it with at least one other person if you can. If that's going to hold you back or stop you or discourage you, especially if your partner gets behind, then just do it yourself. But if you can at all, do it with another person. It is really neat to have somebody to share it with. It gets exciting, especially when you come across things that you've never seen before or you have questions. It's just neat to have another person doing it along with you, being excited along with you. And also there's that, accountability that's good, that keeps us, going even on the hard days when we're really busy.
Right.
So yeah, accountability partner is great.
In this group that we did over the summer, you set up meetings for us so we could get together once every other week to discuss what we had read in those past 2 weeks, which was really helpful.
Yeah.
What did you like about that?
It was neat hearing other people's experiences, especially things that they've never noticed before. When you're reading through the first time, it's just different than reading through the second time. So it's neat having a group with people that were reading through the first time or maybe people that are reading through for the second or third time. It's just neat to hear the insights from everybody wherever they're at in their journey.
How did you go about setting up a group of people to do it with you?
I looked online first of all and found a plan. There's multiple plans that you can find just by doing a web search. I searched for read through the Bible in 90 days. Comes up with a few different options. And then there's also chronological plans that you can find by searching that way. If you search like read through the Bible in 90 days chronologically, you can come up with a couple plans that way too.
And so you came up with a plan and then you just started asking others to join you.
Yes. Yeah.
And you created a page?
Yeah, we created a Facebook page to kind of help those that weren't going to be local stay in touch. The group, the meeting face-to-face was really, I would say, where we got the most discussion.
You've shared about how it's affected your life. Can you share with us a little bit about how you've seen it affect other people's lives who've been through the challenge?
Yeah, the guy that I mentioned who first shared the experience with me, he's my cousin. He's actually been a pastor for many years, and I knew him, of course, my whole life. So I knew what he was like just having read, as much of the Bible as we read in church, bits and pieces here and there. And I saw him as a pastor, the way he operated. And then after reading through the Bible, while he was already a pastor, it just totally changed his life. It changed his style. It changed his approach. It changed his love and his genuine love for the lost because he had a deeper understanding of God's love from reading the Bible. And actually his twin brother, another cousin of mine, so quiet, so shy, would not speak in front of a large crowd, our whole upbringing. He was inspired also to read through the Bible. And as a result, he was so excited about what he was reading that he became a pastor himself and now stands up in front of crowds of people. Yeah, because he's so excited about it. It's like once you read it, it's so life-changing. You just have to share it. I have multiple stories of friends that have been changed from reading it.
So let's say those listening are considering doing this. What would you tell them?
I would say do it. I would say you might be stretched, but you won't be sorry. It is a time commitment, but it is so worth it, and you will be so glad that you did it when it's done. I mean, it's life-changing, it's eye-opening, and it is so rewarding. Another tip that I would give is don't stop. If you can help it at all, do not get behind, but whatever happens, just don't stop, because making it all the way through the end is really what makes all the difference. You know, it's a really hard thing to put into words. It's a hard message to convey to people that reading the Bible is actually exciting. It may be hard to believe if you don't know someone personally that has been changed by it. I think that is really what motivated me, was seeing the change, and then of course God working in my heart, telling me that I could do it, because I think Satan's going to want to tell you that you can't do it, you don't need to do it, it's not important, but it really is, and it's something that's hard to understand until you actually do it yourself. So I just highly recommend doing it at least once, see how you feel about it, and then hopefully you'll be excited about it and want to share it with other people in your life.
Well, Dion, I sure thank you for coming today and for sharing about this Bible reading challenge. I am very thankful that you told me about it and allowed me to be a part of your group, because it was certainly a life-changing thing for me.